All right. Afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you guys for all getting together. It's a bright, sunny day out there. There's a lot of things you could be doing with your time. And a couple times a year, we like to get together with some of my friends and colleagues and help to demystify what we do, to lower the bar, to help you guys close the skills gap, the work ethic gap, the confidence gap that it takes to be on this side of the screen. And I want to show you today that everybody that you are, all your favorite influencers of education that are purveying freedom related information, they're just like you with a couple little things that they did for themselves along the way that made them a little bit different and puts them on this side of the production. So in lowering that bar, one of those things is to humanize everybody. We are not rock stars, we are not celebrities. Most of us did not choose to do this. We do it because we feel it's necessary in the world that we live in, unfortunately, that we have to spend so much time explaining the obvious to people who really have a low barrier of entry when it comes to evidence and things that they think to be true. So all the producers today focus on freedom related content to liberate your mind, to help you get more out of your life. And I'm going to be asking them some questions today. It's going to be just easy conversation. Nobody's on the spot. Nobody's under pressure. We're just going to, kind of have an interview session that demystifies and helps to disambiguate some of the things that need to be done to have a book in publication, a podcast, a video, a movie, a whole series, a conference with hundreds of people. All these sorts of things are within your skill set. And I think that we all have these dormant proclivities for self-reliance that have been covered up by the crud in our society. And these VIP, very independent producer sessions are where we come together and we kind of shake that off and we share some of the magic that we've discovered for ourselves. And when you understand that that magic is just knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and experience coming together on a regular basis for yourself and doing things consistently, it's a lot easier for you to do. Before we go too much further, I host a course twice a year. It's called Autonomy. It's a training course for adults. The website is getautonomy.info. And we have an early bird special. We're going to start teaching at the end of March. So just a couple weeks away. And so there's a special. So you can find out. And that's also available to anybody who's interested from today's events. But we got to get to why we're here. He is the host of What on Earth is Happening, and he does a weekly show, which likewise to Ryan. I mean, he throws the kitchen sink in every week, and there's nothing left on the field when this man walks off and he's done with his job. He gives it all in a way so consistently that it is often invigorating and inspiring, not only to his audience, but to his colleagues and fellow producers. I welcome to the stage Mark Passio. How you doing,
Richard,
Mark?
thank you so much. It's a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that.
Hi, it's great to see you, bro. All right, so
You too.
trials and tribulations of doing what we do. Once upon a time, you're just a regular person. You had some stuff to say. Did you get schooled? Were you in the AV club in elementary school? Like, where did this all begin for you technically? Because you're super technical at what you do.
Yeah, well, I have a background in graphic design. I worked for Knight Ridder Corporation, which is a huge newspaper and media company in the mainstream media. They own most of the newspapers that have been generated in most major cities in the United States. Definitely involved in globalist operations, no doubt. And I worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer, which was owned and controlled by Knight Ridder. And I did newspaper ads. I made sometimes full page, but often quarter to eighth page ads for the Philadelphia Inquirer. When they split their operation to an internet-based company called Philly.com. I then went to work for them making web page advertisements in their web division. That's part of my technical background. While I was working at those two companies, I realized that their technical division was very lacking, let's say, and we didn't get a lot of good desktop technical support at our desks. Those of us who were in the graphic design department, so a lot of that those duties fell to us on the design staff, and I ended up being the go-to person for tech help when it came to the other designers needing tech help. And I started really learning a lot about technical day-to-day operations and troubleshooting specifically. I parlayed that into a career in desktop technical support for a company in central New Jersey near Princeton called Gear 3 Technologies. That has since been absorbed by a larger technical company. But while I was working for them, I was their lead Macintosh technical specialist, and I went to different companies, mostly in graphic design, to troubleshoot their graphic design computers when they had problems. I worked all up and down the entire New Jersey, the whole state of New Jersey, sometimes into New York, sometimes into Philadelphia, but mostly throughout the entire state of New Jersey, and supported everything from computers that made the slot machines for the Atlantic City casinos to Trump Towers itself, doing technical troubleshooting jobs in those graphic design departments. So that's my technical background. That's what assisted me in doing the type of technical work that I do today when it comes to producing, putting a live show together, live streaming, and all of the technical tasks that go along with that.
Well, that's a lot of experience. And then you take that and you couple that with your research acumen, and then you have this burgeoning opportunity to publish on the internet. And you're known for long form content and these mega presentations. And did you have a couple of those skill sets and you put them together and did these things? Or did you want to do this thing and you needed to go collect a couple skill sets to be able to podcast, or just to, get a lecture space and do your long presentations? What were some of the obstacles and challenges when you were trying to figure that out for the first time?
Yes, that's a great question. The progression was very interesting because, again, for people who understand and know my work, I was involved within the world of occultism, specifically dark occultism, in my youth. And coming out of that, I definitely wanted to blow the whistle on that. And it was very a lot of not, I wouldn't even call it luck. It was what I would call synchronicity or synchromysticism, however you want to look at that. It was the right skills that I had built in the past merging together with what I had experienced in the world to really create a perfect storm of opportunity, as I look at it. If I did not have the technical background that I had when I got involved in the occult, and I stayed in that progression, I stayed in a technical progression of knowledge. I always wanted to know more about the latest technologies, how to do things, methodologies, workflows, etc. I always stayed interested in that type of technical work, not only because it assisted me in my work that I was making money through at the time, to understand new technologies as they came out, but I somewhere had in the back of my mind that communication was going to be important one day. And when I really understood the moral implications of what I had been involved in with the occult, and I knew that I wanted to blow the whistle on that entire world and their operations, I knew I had to put all of those technical skills that I had gained to bear in that effort, in that war, in that informational warfare. So I parlayed all of those skills that I had built up and I had kept building up over the years and kept up with. Again, it's keeping an ear out and keeping an eye out for new technologies, for new ways of doing things. These are a lot of the things that I now myself teach in my How to Become the True Media Tech seminar that I give once a year for 6 months. It's a 23-week seminar. And I teach people how to do things like that, how to keep their ear to the ground when it comes to new technologies that are being released, when it comes to keeping up with how to do things and new ways of doing things, what I call best practices. Best practices shift and change over time as new technologies emerge. So it's always important to basically keep an eye and an ear out, and to never look at it like you're finished learning and you just have that skill in hand and you just know that and that's it. These skills are always developing. They are always unfolding over time. And I look at myself as the kind of person that really did try to keep sharp when it came to new emerging technologies. Again, originally as part of my job, in the corporate world, you could say, but then certainly it became even more important to do that when I became a content creator myself and doing live production every week. Then I really wanted to make sure that I had those skills in hand, was always sharpening them, was always developing them, and was always keeping them modern and current. Because in today's tech world, a skill set that you know this week could be completely obsoleted within several months of time, or at least a few years, certainly. So you never want to look at it like, I just have this in hand, I know this, and that's the end of it. It's a continual learning process that unfolds as you learn and grow and understand more about how things work in this entire field of endeavor.
Well, the other thing that comes into that is I think a lot of people starting out, they think, well, I don't know enough yet to get started. And then once you get started and you figure out, like, I'm never going to know enough. Like, I always have to learn every day as much as I can to keep up with this game. So you might as well get started sooner. So decide what you want to do, figure it out along the way is traditionally like how we're productive, most of us.
Without a doubt, you have to resolve yourself to knowing that you're going to have to continue learning. The learning process never really stops. And every day I deal with technical issues that I have to resolve. And it's like that level of tenaciousness and persistence is a personal characteristic that you have to build up in yourself. And like I said, I look at it as very synchronistic that I developed those technical skills when I was younger as part of, basically doing work to make a living. And I parlayed them into the whole skill set that is required to be an independent producer.
Yeah. And I think that like the work ethic and consistency aspect has to do with our level of self-respect.
Yes.
And the level of self-respect has to do with our knowledge of self and our competence in doing the things we need to do to be self-reliant. And so it's like, we can't treat these symptoms without going into those root causes, strengthening people from within. And then all of a sudden, like, those symptoms just go away. They're no longer an issue that holds you back. Like something like stage fright might be like Lake Erie in front of people. And they're like, I don't know how to cross this, but the lake doesn't get smaller, you get bigger, and then you just walk around it like it's a puddle, or you just walk through it because you don't care about getting your feet wet. But we get to the other side and we don't let those artificially instilled mental limitations hold us back. And that's one of the big challenges that I think it is. Like, this is like Plato's cave. Like, if we go in there and try to release them from their chains, it's unethical and they'll kill us. So we have to reflect it in there through a series of mirrors that carry our media and put it on their screens. And then they liberate themselves.
Very well said. That's exactly the process. And all of those internal characteristics of the psyche, you have to be developing them in tandem. You have to be developing them in parallel to the technical skills. And again, as you said, people have to simply believe that they are capable of doing it. Don't make it a self-fulfilling prophecy by defeating yourself before you begin by saying, I'm never going to be able to do this. I can't learn it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. Those are all just self-defeating mental viruses that often are instilled in us by the control system. We have to develop our own patterns of thought and action that complement each other. And we have to understand we are capable to anything we really set our minds to do. If we develop those skill sets, we develop those internal characteristics of the human psyche that are, again, have to go hand in hand with the actual physical day-to-day efforts in work. And we simply believe in ourselves that we are capable. Again, as many great teachers, specifically teaching the law of attraction, stated, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, either way, you are correct. You are right. You have to tell yourself a positive story about the belief in yourself, about the skill sets that you know that you can develop, and then simply make steady progress toward doing those things. I always tell people, you don't need to jump from A to Z. Go through all of the steps. Don't shortcut the process. Don't try to shortchange nature. Do the hard work. Even if it's the hard way to do it the hard way. Push yourself. Don't push yourself so much that you break, but you have to challenge yourself. You can't set the bar real low. You have to set a high bar and then work to achieve that. Give every day-to-day effort consistently. Consistency is one of the keys. Persistence is one of the keys. These are personal characteristics that I try to instill and teach in my seminar. My seminar for how to become the true media is not just about technical skills. Obviously, the bulk of the classes focus on the technical side of things because that's what it's there to do. But another big aspect of the How to Become the True Media seminar is working on your personal skill sets. It's organizational skills, it's time management, it's getting into the right mindset, it's focus, it's maintaining a level of energy and consistency, and never, ever, ever giving up, especially on yourself. That's the number one thing, is tenacity, not giving up, pressing forward constantly. That's what the great work is all about. It is about constant effort. That's why it's called the great work. It's not the big fun party. It's the one great work, and it's all about constant effort. And when we do that, you'll feel a sense of accomplishment, purpose, and righteous pride in your work, knowing that you went out there and you did the right thing to tell the truth out into the world for all to hear.
I think the Japanese have a word, kaizen, which kind of means the excellence in all your actions, whatever's in front of you. But there's a limitation. Like we're not talking about perfection. That's unattainable, and no one has a budget for that. No one even really appreciates it. But excellence is doing what you said you would do, when you said you would do it, plus a couple extra shine polished steps of like, I care about this. This is a representation of my time here on this planet. I did this, whether it's a work of art or I cleaned your kitchen or something, took out the garbage. Like, do whatever you're doing because you are self-tasking and a self-responsible person. Do it with excellence. And you're going to feel so much better. And the substantial things you leave behind as your trail of actions are going to be a great legacy. And most people are being denied that too. Their actions are not adding up to anything worth leaving here and studying and other people drawing value from.
Richard, you touched on so many important points right there. One of the things is be present, be in the moment, become the task that you're doing. Take pride in the work that you are putting out there. Make it the best that it can be to the best of your ability. That doesn't mean it has to be perfect. One of the actual tenets of my skill sharing seminar, How to Become the True Media, is there's no such thing as perfection. Perfection is the enemy of good. Do something that is good. Put it out into the world. Start improving upon it as you go. You don't have to get it completely perfect. There is no such thing. The other thing you touched on is, put the work out, do what you say you're going to do, put it out there in a timely fashion. I'm getting ready to, in the next few weeks, release my 2 masks, same face presentation, and very, very proud of how that came out. It's going to be 8 hours long, similar to the natural law seminar that I gave back in 2013, that you so generously came out and filmed and edited. And looking back on the 2 masks presentation, was it perfect? No. Was it a genuine great effort that I put out there? Absolutely. I'm very happy with the way it turned out. Looking at the production qualities of the video and the editing, very happy with it. I think it's going to put great things out there for people's understanding of how the occult world works, especially how it influences the political systems of our times. So, those core personality traits and characteristics, they're some of the things that I think my seminar really helps to instill in people, and they can carry over in whatever endeavors they're involved with in their day-to-day lives. It's part of the seminar that I'm actually really the most proud of and really want to focus even more on as new generations of the seminar come forward every year. So far, a great response to it. I love that time of the year to do that seminar, because I feel like there's hope for new content creators coming out, emerging, putting great work out there into the future, and that lasting as a legacy, as you talked about. It would be the legacy of a person's work and their purpose, if fulfilling their purpose in life, to assist in people's understanding of what's going on all around them. So that's why I feel so great that I have split my content creation and my teaching of all of these skill sets, half 50-50, half of the year. That time period when I give How to Become the True Media is really the time of what I would say is a time of good feeling and hope for me, because I want to see more people, especially younger people, really get these skill sets under their belt and develop those personality traits that are going to carry them far into the future.
Well, you and I agree on the fact that it's a good thing. Like, we both have 50-50 schedules. I mean, I do 12 weeks twice a year, and then I do 12-week sprints in between those seasons of autonomy. You do it for 6 months at a time, and you also have a prodigious archive.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, here's the ARC 2.0. Is that 2 terabytes now?
Yes.
2 terabytes. There you go. So many hours of content you have contributed for the betterment of human beingness. There's not a lot of content like any of the cookie cutter corporate stuff that you have access to, like on Spotify and iTunes, all the stuff that's easily put in front of people. Like, it's soulless content that is empty and bereft of any meaning or substance or wisdom being purveyed. And then here's Mark out here working for a decade plus, like doing it, and doing it live with style and gusto, and has yet to be recognized by a wider audience. But as I was just saying with Ryan, like, as long as we just keep doing what we're doing, it does get down to the wider audience. And so I always, instead of looking at what are the results, just like, what's the next thing we got to do with excellence?
Yep. That's it. You have to archive your data. You have to put it in some type of a repository that's easy to access for people, and let it reach people as they come to it. That's one of the skill sets that I teach in How to Become the True Media, is getting all your information online in some sort of a repository that's easily accessible, that's largely uncensorable. That's one of the reasons that I use the Odyssey platform in blockchain, which has some resistance to censorship, and putting it out there consistently. When you do that, people are going to gravitate toward it. They are going to realize that you're serious. They are going to see your genuine effort in your day-to-day life, continuing to do this. And eventually they're going to get it. They're going to realize that what you're saying has been a genuine effort to help to enlighten humanity. And that's the hope for my work. And hopefully it will be recognized in a somewhat wider way. I would like to see that personally, as being my legacy for what I contribute to future generations. And, we'll see where it goes, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing forward with continual effort. And even if I get frustrated, I push through that. That's what it's all about. It's about getting all of that and saying, regardless of what I feel in the moment, I'm going to still continue to contribute. I'm still going to continue to push forward. As long as we do that and we make that genuine effort, we never stop trying, we've already won, regardless of what else happens in the world.
I'm sorry I even interrupted your sound.
No problem.
Said, man.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to spin the wheel of destiny, and we're going to do a little Q&A.
Great.
I brought Ryan back, and you guys can find Mark's work at whatonearthishappening.com. All right, so the technical wheels are spinning in the background. We should be able to have Q&A, and somebody from Mission Control, I think, is going to read a question. Let's see how this works.
We're going to take raised hands today, not written questions. Good morning.
Aye. Good morning. Thank you for the help.
Stacy, please unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi. And I feel kind of bad because Tom had posed this question in the chat, but I was thinking about the rise of AI, and the other side is using that to manipulate continuously. So is our side of things considering the use of AI and the reverse?
Well, I'll spin it up real quick. I think any tools that are presented in front of us, we should figure out how to use them for liberty and freedom, and also see the shortcomings of using such tools, such as surveillance, but they've already got us in a surveillance panopticon for the past 20 years and took all the meaningful data we could ever have. So I'm interested in like regaining the ground that we've already lost. And to do that, we're probably going to have to use Sora or Gemini or AI, something or other along the way to get other people in touch with the actual and factual elements of freedom and evidence of cognitive liberty. Ryan and Mark, what do you guys got?
I'll chime in. I absolutely agree with that position, Richard. I think these technologies should not be feared. We should not look at them in a fearful way. That is not to say they cannot be abused and used for control purposes. Certainly they can and are. Every technology is a neutral tool. It doesn't matter what it is. If it is out there and it exists as a technology, it is ultimately a neutral tool. There is no, I mean, I tell people, imagine looking at a computer and saying, is that computer evil? Is that computer genuinely good? There's no such thing. A computer computes, it processes information and then puts it back out there in a different form. So we have to look at all technology like that. And most certainly we would be able to leverage AI technology for the purposes of freedom and good. It's simply a tool. The determining factor of what it is going to do in the world when used is the consciousness of the wielder of that tool. And that's how we have to look at all technology from my perspective.
Ryan, what do you think?
Every time. I agree in a general sense that, you know, like let's take it from where we currently are. I've made the same argument 100 times about going back to like the internet, DARPA program, the idea that obviously it's looking at like a hammer, right? Build a house or you could break someone's head open, right? It's a tool and it can be applied that way. But the line begins to become murky for me once a couple of things. When we straddle the line of like this biological technology discussion, there's a weird area there that then begins to change the way I view technology, right? And where you then you enter into the era of like this internet of nanobio things kind of concept where I don't know if I agree with that anymore. Like, I feel like there is a level there that can be applied, you know, it gets a whole conversation, but I think that makes it clear enough. And then in regard to the artificial intelligence side of it, same kind of thing is that I agree with you up until a point. And this gets into the debate of whether or not we argue we've reached sentience, you know, or you know, the true artificial intelligence or not. And I don't think that's the case, or if even, who knows if it's ever even possible. But should we reach a point where that line becomes crossed? Well, again, now we're in a realm where I don't think you could say that it has intent and could be evil, you know, that kind of thing. So I think there's I wouldn't say fear. I agree with you there. That's fear is irrational. I would say worry and concern about where these could go. 100%. And I do think that there is a level of this that we should be concerned about. So I wouldn't say just anything that comes to us we should try to apply in our lives. Like, I'm very, very skeptical about anything artificial intelligence right now. And I do get that may hamper, like, you could see that people may be, you know, able to formulate things faster. And, you know, there's a level of benefit there. But I think I'm very worried about the machine learning aspect and allowing ourselves to be sort of like the guidance for how this gets employed. I'm worried at that, but I hear you. And I do think that basically, I think individually out there, you should make your own decisions on whether you think it's valid. I'm taking a very cautious approach right now in regard to contrary in any way electronics going the other way. I don't want, you know, that's just my personal take, but I do see how all of them can be used in a way, in some ways to benefit, if not the main point, to eventually push back from within the same system. Blockchain is a great example of that. There's a huge, and I would argue a justifiable pushback from a whole scale perspective, but I'm the first one that will say that I can see how this could be utilized in a way that would actually hinder what I think they're trying to do. And there are people building those aspects of it, you know, so it's a mixed bag, but just be cautious about where it goes. Right now, I generally agree with what the other two panelists said. After
having heard Ryan's well thought out argument, and after having only asked ChatGPT 4 questions, I think I want to add like everything he said to my answer. And that's how you evolve your thinking. I just heard a better argument than part of my argument, so I'm going to take that and make it part of mine.
I would also say that those are very well thought out and expressed genuine concerns that should be taken into consideration and are perfectly valid, especially the point about technologies emerging that people tend to, attempt to put into the human physiology. I think that is a line that should be drawn. I don't believe in putting technologies, merging them into the body like a cyborg or anything like that. And then even when it comes to potential sentience, that's like bringing a new life into existence. And there are a whole host of considerations that come along with that. So I think Ryan's points and concerns are very valid.
But, bro, Elon said the new Neuralink can make your brain hard.
It's the good AI that's going to save us. Right?
It's the Viagra for your brain, he said.
God. Just funny
These
how quickly
technocrats are
something that's been
hilarious.
focused on by the entire people support, like the whole right focusing and supporting Elon Musk is suddenly all good with brain chips and everything else because he presents his version of it. I just don't know how that makes sense.
Right.
It's just lunacy.
That's why it's not good to be one of those red blue team things.
Yes.
All right. Well, what's the next question, Leah?
Thank you. Dane, please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How you doing, Dave?
Doing all right. It's a pleasure speaking with you guys. I dropped my question in the chat, and that question is, legacy media largely operates proactively through established relationships and networks. In alternative media, how does one be proactive rather than reactive without those established relationships and networks?
I'll field that one. I think one of the first ways to avoid being reactive is not to hinge too much upon social media, because social media seems to be the most reactive pathway in the technological space as far as I'm concerned. That's where I see most of the reactive elements instead of proactive pathways. I think people put too much into social media. They make it a space for a lot of drama. They believe that people are going to pay attention to things that are said and dropped there, when I really don't see that as a very proactive approach. People have short attention spans, particularly people who focus a lot on social media and do a lot of endless scrolling. It's not a place where people are going to go to watch any long form content or really well thought out structured content. So I would say use social media. Don't completely not use it, because you have to inform people about what you're doing and what your efforts are, but use it just for that. Use it as a method of alerting people to what you are doing or what people in your network or influence are doing, and put that information out there on social media to let people gravitate toward your platforms. I think that's a valid way of doing it and being proactive and getting people to where the higher tier content, the more intelligent, well thought out, long form structured content is at. That's going to help people in a number of ways. It's going to put them toward the true alternative media sphere of information, and it's going to also help their attention spans and move them away from this millisecond attention span of social media and endlessly scrolling through nonsense. So that's where what I would chime in and say that for me, I teach that as a method of getting away from that reactive approach or pathway that you talked about and toward a more proactive one.
Yeah, I largely agree. And I like the Twitter aspect is actually a good analogy or point to throw back to what we were just saying, right? Is that it's simply, it's a tool that can be used. And I agree that there's ways to use it to benefit the reach of your work and so on, but not to lose yourself in it. Because I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's designed that way. I think that's all been proven, that this is meant to, manipulate the way you think and see the world and socially engineer and so on. But I do think that there's an interesting overlap to that though, like with what I do, what I largely has become more of I do my long-term investigations as well, where I'll kind of, have month-long kind of research into certain topics or even just a couple of days in a row. But it's kind of become largely reactive, where I am in fact looking at what's being presented that day and trying to break things down for people who, as you're pointing out, get lost in that reactive day-to-day news cycle. And so it's like, as long as, to bring it back to the original point, you are in fact genuinely questioning everything coming your way, but considering all of it openly, it's hard for them to trap you with that reactive mentality, right? Because you are going, okay, hold on, questioning it, considering it, right? Not just falling into it every time. And so I think that's important. As long as you can, push back against that, I think it's important for somebody like me to be in that middle ground and react to it day to day and show you guys what I think they're trying to do, break down the propaganda, right? But to your point, I think it is important not to allow that, because you don't want to, like the analogy I've always used in my show is that little dangly cat toy, right? We're all focusing on some important story and they're like, look over here. And everyone bats at the new toy. We're like distracted to this new story. You can't let that happen either, right? You have to consider the way it goes. But I think to the real crux of the question, in regard to the corporate media versus the independent media, I think it's important that we do overlap in the same way, right? Kind of like what we're doing right here, that we discuss things with each other, that we overlap, we consider different opinions. What I love about the interviews that I do, and I always try to make this happen, is that you have your different opinions, but you actually come to some new thought between the two of you that neither of you had considered before that, this new synthesis of the conversation. And that's what's important about the independent media. So I think that's one way around it as well, that we're not just kind of, because I do it myself, you can lose yourself in this path, where you, and a lot of times, you're on a trail, you're finding something, you're, oh my God, this is important. And there's all these things flying by on the side. And that's what the other people in this field can help. You won't lose sight of the bigger topics. And what I often do is invite somebody on who's been in depth in some topic that I haven't, and let us know what's going on and stuff like that. So I generally agree. I think it's important to just, not let yourself get lost in the day-to-day news cycle and social media manipulation.
It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to consider a topic without accepting it.
Yeah.
You decide later. You reserve judgment till later. You're going to collect some other data probably. You want a second, second opinion. Leave yourself open for learning. That's it. I think we have time for one more question before the next obligation we've got. Let's see, who's got their hand raised?
Tony, go ahead and mute yourself.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. I had a question for Mark. Although we're talking about communication, it's somewhat relevant. I'm not sure if he's read Matthias Desmond's book on the psychology of totalitarianism, but I was wondering if Mark has ever elaborated on the concept of mass formation. There's debate about this, and although there's no chapter in his book on media and propaganda or education, I was wondering if he was aware of the mechanism of the phenomena he describes. Because, Chomsky, he has spent his whole life writing about propaganda and academia, and it's kind of sad to see him repudiate much of his work and how much of the left have been duped by this narrative. And that's where you get into the actual fundamentals of the narrative itself, the existence of the virus, and so on and so forth. And I'd like to hear about Mark's opinion about this.
I do know the book that you are referring to. I downloaded it. I began it, but I have not completed it. But I am very well aware of the concept of mass formation. I actually talked about it a lot in my work in my podcast, not under that name, but simply under the term mind control. And these are occult tactics, which I broke down the methods of manipulation that they use to perform this type of leading the mass psychology in a particular way. Over almost a year and a half of data that I presented through my podcast, What on Earth is Happening, which is all archived. All of those episodes are archived on my website, whatonearthishappening.com. So yes, I'm very well aware of the concept. I think his presentation of it, from what I've seen so far, is very spot on. And I cover that in my own way from an occult perspective in my work at whatonearthishappening.com in the podcast section, which I would recommend going through in order at your own pace from beginning without skipping around, because it's like a college course. It's built in a stepwise progression, and it progresses to heavier and heavier information as it goes on.
Start at episode 1. You heard it
Yes.
from the chief himself. All right. Does that answer your question, Tony?
There was 4 conditions that he attributes to this phenomena. There's debate about this, because he thinks it's a group dynamic that emerges, I guess, from the bottoms up, so to speak.
Sure.
And there's the counter narrative where it's muchly influenced by the mainstream media.
I would agree on all counts. Yes.
There's some interpretation about that, but I was just wondering if you were aware of those conditions that he described.
Yes,
and do you agree with them?
I totally agree. They are definitely group dynamics. They are reinforced through what we laughingly call the educational system and the mainstream media, without a doubt. And I go into the details of all of that in what I call the methods of manipulation in my work. So absolutely, I think he's spot on.
Thank you.
Richard, could I add a comment to that really quickly?
Please do.
I just think it's interesting that during all of this, during the height of that conversation, when everybody suddenly became aware of the concept of mass formation or mass or what is it, the formation psychosis, or whatever the full term is, that what's interesting is that it's an obviously valid point to include in this conversation, right? Where not even to say we can, whether or not you can prove it, but that we could argue that people can fall in line with something like that. And my point is how weird the pushback became from within the conversation against someone like Desmond. the idea that suddenly this is like it's just interesting to me that such an obviously valid kind of point to include in the conversation became some kind of, manipulative sidestep that we should ignore. And I was just like, that's very strange, seeing as how it's obviously part of this, whether you think it was designed or, whatever or not. People fall in line with what they feel the crowd is doing, that, we're all herd animals to a degree. I just want to point that out, that there's a lot of, we should, as always, questioning, don't just fall in line with who the main names are in any moment, because a lot of times some of those people are there to just, lead you in the wrong direction. I think like that. Question it all, wonder whether we were being misled, but I think it's obvious that mass site formation has a play in all of what happened right there, whether it's the corporate media or just following along with what society and your neighbors were doing. It played a part for sure.
I think that talking is us opening and closing our mouths, and the education is us opening and closing our minds. And we open it to ask questions, but we should close it when we find conclusions and can move on with the next series of things we need to learn. So it's about you got to know to ask the questions, but also know what right answer, what answers look like in reality, and be able to be discerning to say, that claim has no merit. There's no substance. There's no evidence to it. It's that in that case, it's just some mouth sounds someone said. We shouldn't take it as an excuse to do blank, as an example. That goes on a lot. All right, let's go over. Let's get behind schedule, because I don't like being on schedule. Let's take one more question, and then we'll move on with the next scheduled event. Do we have one more, Leah? I saw a bunch of hands up, so I just figured.
Yeah, I just lowered everybody's hands, but I'm going to find Stacy because she had her hand up.
There was Stacy, Sonia, RJ.
Sonia, yeah. Okay. All right. I got Sonia. So, who gave me your hand back up?
We're doing it live.
RJ, there you go. Thanks for putting your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering. Hi. Thank you all for your time, for one. I was just wondering, if you have no social media presence, never been on anything, Twitter or anything, how would you approach somebody for an interview if you start a podcast?
I would start local. One of the places where you can have the biggest effect is helping local business owners, mom and pop businesses, stay in business. They need marketing. They need interviews. They need testimonials. They have certain things that they need just for their online infrastructure to stay in business. You go help them. Now can they pay you? They probably don't have a budget, but they'll give you free dry cleaning, free Chinese food, free whatever they make there at their place, right? So just learning how to have the skeleton key to success is knowing how to use your interview skills to hey, can I schedule a time to sit down with you, and I'm going to ask questions and get some answers. It's one of the highest forms of education that you can give yourself, is that skill set. And then if you decide, I want to make a living interviewing people and publishing content, there's you got to do it consistently, and you got to find people interesting enough at the beginning to carry that out into the public. If you don't have a social media presence yourself, maybe if you did something for them and they post it to their network, that's how you get your start. But it's always bootstrapping yourself in one way or the other, just seeing something that needs to be done and then stepping up and trying to do it.
Awesome.
I would. Oh, go ahead. No, go right ahead, Ryan, please.
I was going to say simply that, based on the way you phrased it, I was thinking maybe you meant that you had somebody in mind, right? And so you have no social media presence, and how do you effectively reach out to somebody who may just disregard you because you have no social media presence? And if that's the way you meant that, I first of all completely agree with what Richard said. That's excellent advice. But if it's about somebody, let's say some large person that you'd hoping to get an interview with, I would say that's kind of the same point that I was saying in regard to starting. It's just be genuine. They're usually the metrics, the things that people decide on, if it's only about the reach and the growth of their platform, would be whether or not you're going to add to that, and so you'll just probably not disregard anyway. But I would say reaching out the best you can, being a genuine email or Twitter or wherever else, or I guess email would be the best way to go, and just outline why you're doing this. I'm new, I'm starting this, and I think your work is outstanding, and I'd like to make this the flagship interview, or whatever, and just hope that they care. The reason I say that is from my perspective. I pretty much I miss a lot of it. People email or send tweets or whatever, and I just kind of miss it because I'm busy. But if I see it and I catch it at the right moment, I don't even know who they are. I say, sure, give me a time, let's make it happen. It's fun to connect with new people, and and on top of that, that's the best bet you can do, is just be yourself, be genuine, and hope that it catches them at the right moment. But also make sure that you're preparing. That you've watched interviews, and that you know how you want it to be conducted, and that you don't end up kind of learning on the job with somebody who is busy kind of a thing. Learn it, get your questions ready, make sure you're all prepared, but it's going to be a learning curve, So I praise you for stepping into a field that's going to, be difficult and more now than ever. So, but I encourage you to do it. I think it's a positive thing, no matter wherever it ends up, to conduct your, create your own contents, put it that way.
I'll add an addendum to both of those great perspectives. I want to say I totally agree with what both Richard and Ryan said, which are excellent points of advice. Maybe if you don't have a social media presence, just go out there and get a free blog on a blogging site or something, and do some very rudimentary interviews, as Richard said, maybe with people local, just so you put up something with some production value that people can see and see what you're going to be like as an interview host, and what your show looks like on the air. And then as Ryan said, just reach out, be yourself, be genuine, tell them your honest intentions, and you would be surprised how far you will get by just asking. Put that intention out into the universe and ask for what you need, and you'd be surprised with that intent, putting that energy out there into the universe by asking for what you want and require, how that will come back to you. So I would say those are both incredible points of advice. Really, really hear what they both said and apply them. And my addendum is ask for what you need. Just put it out there in a genuine way, in a polite, friendly email, and you'd be surprised at how much response you'll get back from modern day content creators. I will almost guarantee you that.
Now, just in case that's not enough, I could be like Ron Popeil and say, wait, there's more. You have to respect their time. You have to be polite. You have to be persistent. It took me 6 months to try to get John Taylor Gatto to respond to an interview request, but when he did, it all popped off. We teach interview skills every season in Autonomy. Season 1, Chris McMillan went through. He learned how to do an interview. He interviewed Corbett as his interview number 1. And then he interviewed John McAfee before McAfee didn't Epstein himself. So these types of skills allow you to open doors. It's a skeleton key for success. It's something that is your birthright to learn how to do these things. And I don't care where you learn them. I just want to see the world with more people doing these things, because this is how interesting things happen. All right, so that was good. That was RJ's question, right? All right. At this point, gentlemen, I would like to plug your work again. TheLastAmericanVagabond.com is where you can find the archives and the live streams ongoing of Ryan Christian. And over here on What on Earth is Happening, you can get Mark's 6-month course. You can get his ARC drive. You can also learn about autonomy over there as well. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being part of this very independent producer 3 conference. And I think that you've exceeded my expectations. So I would imagine that the audience is quite tickled from you guys taking this investment of time seriously today. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys. It was a good panel.
All right. We're going to see how the next panel unfolds. We've got a good, strong start. We're going to go to a quick break. Then we're going to come back with John Bush of the Live Free Academy endeavor. And he's got an Exit and Build conference coming up. He just finished his Freedom Cells Summit this week, the 4-day challenge. There's a lot going on. And if you don't know about that, you're going to get learnified, as my friend Ernie Hancock likes to say. We'll be right back and we'll continue. Mark and Ryan, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Richard.
For those that are considering joining Autonomy, the people that are sitting on the fence, what's your thoughts, recommendations?
Do not wait. Do not wait. Do it now. You will be glad that you did it.
It's a very good opportunity to open your mind, personally as well as professionally.
Definitely go through the obstacle course and make sure that you are ready to be blasted with the fire hose of knowledge there.
Do what you need to do for yourself, but sign up, as soon as possible, because you're just missing out if you don't.
Thinking about where they're at in their life, what they want to achieve, where they want to go.
Look into it, look at the information that's available.
Maybe not, autonomy is not for everyone. take a good look at it, go through the vet process, make sure it's something that they want to do, and if they're the right person, I wouldn't recommend them unless they're the right person. You know what I mean? There's some people that I would be like, yeah, no, you can't even, I wouldn't even introduce you to autonomy. And then the people that do are just like, I would really promote it, saying this is something that would help you in this way in your life or that way in your life, depending on the person, because everybody's different. So I wouldn't recommend the same thing, autonomy, the same way to everyone. You know what I mean? But I would definitely speak about the community and the support. The unequaled amount of supports in this group in so many different ways, and not just saying in a technical way or a video way or an intellectual way. There's so many different things, like, that to tap into. And so depending on the person is how I would recommend it. But for sure, the community and the support that it offers is the first thing that comes to mind.
I was hedging. It took me forever to get through the obstacle course. In fact, I took the goal setting workshop and I hated it. Not because I hated Rich or the community or anything like that, but I felt so lost that I was frustrated with myself because I had no goals. I said, my goal is to make it through the bleeping day in one piece. That's my goal. So I hedged for a long time. I was like, I knew the course was coming. I procrastinated. It took me forever to do the obstacle course. In fact, it wasn't until the pressure of time of joining this season 10 was there that I finally finished the obstacle course, did my call. Even then, I was like, oh, I don't know if I should do it. Should I spend the money? I don't know. It's a lot of money. It's a lot, and then I just said, something happened. And I said, I'm gonna do it. Click, do it. So I highly recommend that people, you're probably, maybe if you're experiencing some of those doubts, ifs, ands, or buts, but you're interested and you're here, do it. Because you will see changes in yourself and your life, and you will see possibility where you didn't see it before. It matters that much. And the more people that can come in and start breaking free of their mental slavery and start recognizing the way that the system has acted upon us in these really nefarious ways, the sooner we can start breaking out of that and changing our perspective on life and enjoying our life more with stoicism, with an excellent community, with improvements in our self-esteem, with gratitude, all of this stuff. I mean, just do it.
With what is explained in the lectures and with the experiences of other people and so different people, you have a good opportunity to broaden your perspective and open your possibilities. No matter what you do later, but it's good to have opportunities. You have more to choose.
Don't hesitate. I mean, it has been the most phenomenal experience.
Anyone considering joining Autonomy, if you're willing to put in the time, I can't see, like, it will benefit you. Like, it will benefit if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. There's so much benefit there.
I think it's worth giving yourself the shot of meeting a positive community of people who are engaged in growth and who are doing some really, really interesting things in the world. And who crucially are from a very diverse set of backgrounds, but have this common purpose of seeking more independence, more autonomy, a life that they're living for themselves. I think that's something that you owe yourself to have a shot at in your life.
I felt it was great for me, but you'll never figure that out unless you actually try it. You have to like try things in life before you can realize the benefit of, you know, I don't know. For me, it was a great experience. And I think once you realize the community that's in autonomy, you realize how amazing it is. I don't know.
One of the important questions that comes out of autonomy that rarely gets asked outside of autonomy is to consider the cost of not doing it. And that's a remarkably significant and worthwhile question to consider in all aspects of your life.
I'll give them the advice on how it helped me, and hopefully they'll see some value in it, and we can get them started. I think everybody should do it. It's just a whole different. It's just so different from school. It's like it's even different from college. Like my daughter's actually taking college classes right now, and I told her, I said, when you get done your college classes, you're going to have to go to autonomy, because then you'll actually learn something. You'll learn how to succeed in life versus the crap that they're teaching in college. But she wants to get her a degree, so that's fine. Well, whatever, get the best out. She's pretty on board. We talk about a lot of things. She kind of knows what's going on in the world too. So she says there's a lot of crap that they're teaching in college, but she just ignores it. It takes the good out of it she can get out of it. But I think that after that, I'll get her in autonomy.
I started hearing about autonomy in Grand Theft World when they first started announcing it a few years ago. My first response was, autonomy is probably awesome because Richard Grove is doing it, and I'm sure it's going to be excellent. It would be amazing for business, but I had no idea at that time how the community and listening to people and sharing this journey with people would inspire me and help me to have guts. And that is what happened. Richard, in every Q&A and every lecture, it's just so, he just reminds us and showers us again and again with that wisdom of asking questions and putting yourself out there. Like, okay, let me put this question out there and ask and see, get a brainstorm going on with all these brains in the room, right?
A lot of us have gone to public schooling. A lot of us have had to go through the waking up process of realizing that, a lot of the tools you learn there don't really work in the real world. It's like when you get a new toy or something and you think, oh, this is really cool, and then it doesn't work how you thought it was going to work. Just listening to the Q&A on Sunday is a really good example of how you don't learn all those collaboration tools. You don't learn all that mindset from school, the problem solving mindset. Even though in math we always had a couple of problem solving questions, and in science you're problem solving, but it's not the same thing when you're really dynamically just looking at a situation from all these different angles, trying to add value to your community, trying to work with other people. That's a whole nother skill set.
Really being able to take the time to take in all the different course material in autonomy, which covers the history of schooling in America, as well as, what's going on in the world, why the world's in the state that it is right now. Being able to listen to people talk about those things in a positive way, in a solution-oriented way, has just completely helped me to be that way. To where when I think about these issues in the world, these problems in the world that I would like to see be different and for things to change, instead of just being angry or upset or frustrated, now I am seeing solutions. Now I am seeing what it is that I can do specifically to help change those things and to bring about positive change in the world. And it's just very different than before I joined Autonomy. Before I joined Autonomy, I kind of felt like there was a lot of people didn't care. Kind of had this feeling of people don't care, not enough people care. And I don't have that feeling now. Now I feel like there's a lot of people who care. They just don't maybe have a way to express that or are not speaking out, but in their heart, they do care.